I was with him every single day and I didn't know how he did it. And so that experience really just turned everything on its head for me about what I thought about how children learn and what I believed about how children learn.
So, first off, I am going to introduce to you the beautiful mama, April Scully. April is a former public school teacher turned homeschool mom and the founder of Modern Homeschoolers, a self-proclaimed late bloomer. She traveled the world and worked in entrepreneurship education before becoming a mom the year she turned 40. So at Modern Homeschooler, she helps families cut through the noise and align learning with their values. Her session will give you 3 easy ways to simplify your homeschool and focus on what actually matters. So, welcome, April. I am so excited to have you here.
Thanks, Janine. It's such a pleasure to be here. I did want to start with a small confession. I know that the summit went for 2 days, and you gave us the option of signing up either for Monday or for Tuesday. And I was not busy yesterday, but I have not done a presentation in at least a dozen years. I've never done a Zoom presentation, and I really wanted the opportunity to watch the moms yesterday and learn from them. And so, thank you to everyone who presented yesterday for your courage in going first. They spoke so well, and I was so inspired. And so many of the topics really resonated with exactly what I wanted to speak about today as well. Things like the value of play and natural learning and children's natural curiosity, helping our kids to notice things and have honest conversation with our kids. I was really inspired, but then I was also intimidated. And so I wanted to just kind of tell you how that played out over here. I finished listening to the presentations, and then suddenly I was like, oh my goodness, now, I've been thinking about this for weeks, but how do I actually want to share this information that I have to share? So I put all this pressure on myself, and I thought, okay, I need to sit down now. I need to make slides. I need to get quotes and pictures, and I need to figure out all these things. And it's probably going to take me all night to put together this presentation. And I just completely stressed myself out. And so, kind of in the middle of that, as I was sitting trying to figure things out, my daughter, who's 6, came cartwheeling through the room. And it just sort of, snapped me out of it for a second. I got up and I walked past my son's bedroom, and he was sitting there, and he was on his bed, and he was playing a video game. He had his headset on, and he was so animated. He was just talking to his buddy, but he wasn't talking about the video game. He was recounting every play of the championship baseball game that he had a few days ago. And I just stood there at the door thinking, how on earth is he doing this? How is he playing the video game and recounting everything that happened in the game and saying it out loud all at the same time? And suddenly I realized, this is why I'm here. This is what I love about homeschool and natural learning, and just it's these surprises that happen all the time when I don't plan the learning for my kids, but I just am able to sit here and watch them learn the way that they learn. And I'm constantly surprised by the things that they know and the things that they can do that I can't. And to me, that is just where the value comes in all of this. And so I just kind of caught myself in that moment, and I thought, April, what are you doing? You are overcomplicating a presentation about simplifying. And so I was so glad that I caught myself that early in the process rather than wasting more hours on things that I didn't need to. But what I also realized in that moment is that this is what we've done with education. We've taken something that is so simple and natural and beautiful, really, as learning, and we have completely overcomplicated it. And we have done that in schools. That is what I saw at school. And what's breaking my heart about so much of what I'm seeing now is that we are also doing that in a lot of our homeschools, that we look at learning as being just this one way. It's either you're doing it the way it looks at school and you're bringing that into your home. And if it doesn't look like that, there's this messaging that we're getting that's saying, if it doesn't look like school, then it's not really learning. And what I keep seeing happening is that there is all this pressure that we are putting on ourselves, on our kids, and the teachers are feeling it too. It's that we've added these timelines and deadlines, and we're trying to keep, stop everyone from falling behind, which I think is not true at all, that that can even happen. But we've added so much pressure to the experience that we have just sucked the joy out for everyone. And so part of the reason why I'm here today is because um, what is hurting my heart is watching parents who have already taken this huge step in taking their kids out of the system or not ever putting their kids in the system. They want to do something completely different, and they feel that they need to recreate school in their homes. And I'm not saying that that is entirely a bad thing. I think if that works for you, then that's wonderful. If you're doing it and it feels good here and your kids are loving it and it's working, keep doing it. But if trying to teach all the subjects separately is stressing you out, don't do it. You don't have to do it that way. And that is really the message that I'm trying to help to share with parents right now, because I'm spending so much time in Facebook groups and just trying to answer questions. And it's like, it's almost always the same questions from the new families that come in. How do I start? What curriculum do I buy? How do I start? What curriculum do I buy? Or they get a little further in the journey and it's like, my child does not want to sit down. They don't want to learn this way. They don't want to learn from a book. And what I'm seeing as well is that so many relationships are being damaged in that process by well-meaning parents who obviously care so much about their kids. And rather than prioritizing that relationship, they're prioritizing the academics. And I just feel like I know that there's another way to do it. The other thing we need to think about with that is that where that messaging is coming from in the big picture. We're hearing these messages coming from a world that, from what I can see right now, is, we're not doing very well. The world is broken. So many people are broken. We're not doing things the way that we should be. And I feel like we really need a reset in so many ways and to do things differently if we want to start seeing some different outcomes. The way that this started for me and for my family was that I went to public school. My husband went to public school. We, 5 years ago, we didn't know anything about homeschooling. Our kids were 5 and 2 in March of 2020. The world went upside down and we said, all right, well, maybe we'll try homeschooling. Let's keep our kids home and just sort of see what happens. I had a lot of those same questions about what to do and how it worked. But the one thing that I knew from the very start was that my strong-willed son was not going to want to learn anything from me. He did not care that I was a teacher before. He just is the kind of child who likes to learn things by himself. And so I started doing some quick research that led me to interest-led learning, or some people call it self-directed learning, unschooling, natural learning, life learning. All those things are basically, they have more in common than their differences. They're all a very similar style of homeschooling where the children are really taking the lead. I had already noticed with my own kids that they were learning from everything that we were doing at home. They were learning from, going to the grocery store. We were going on walks and adventures and playing outside and inside and games and sports and cooking and all these different things. And I could see all the learning that was happening in those moments. And I really didn't want to disrupt that. So when I learned about self-directed education, I thought, I'm just going to really take a step back now. This is going to just give me some breathing room and I'm going to let my kids continue to do what we're doing. And I'm not going to stress about it, was what I told myself. About the time my son was around 7, I thought, okay, this is working. We're all just kind of doing our thing and learning through our interests. But at the same time, that those voices were still in my head, right? The ones that we all hear, that, like, you're not doing enough, or he's going to fall behind, or he's not reading yet. So how is he being prepared for life? You're going to fail him. All the voices that we don't want to hear, but we do. And if, as long as those voices are playing in your head, you are going to see the impact of that in your home. Your kids are going to feel that. You are going to project a different kind of energy than when you do when you learned how to trust the process. And so those voices kept creeping in. And one day, and I should say that at this point, my son, he was probably about 7. He knew his letters. He knew the letter sounds. He had sort of figured those things out and picked them up from different places. But he was not yet reading. And he really had no interest in learning how to read. He was on a baseball team, and I didn't want to do the carrots and sticks thing. I didn't want to try to, you know, I don't know, bribe is the right word, but I didn't want to incentivize the reading in any way. I really wanted him to want to learn how to read, before I started to try to help him to do that. So, I would say things like, you're on your baseball team, you're going to be going out to the restaurants with your buddies, and, you're going to be the only one that can't read the menu. Don't you want to learn how to read the menu? And so, that didn't work. Everything was just kind of coming up short. And right around that same time, I was not a podcast listener at that time, but I did listen to a podcast, I think out of desperation. It was an interview with Peter Gray, and I listened long enough to hear the words, "If a child grows up in a literate household, they will learn to read." And so in that moment, what I told myself was, this guy is the expert. He's saying don't push it. That was enough for me to feel like I could just let it go for a little while and not stress about it. So another year and a half went by, and my son was probably about 8.5 at this point. And I had never heard him read before. He loved being read to. I will say he loved being read to. We read to him all the time. We pointed out things in the books while we were reading to him, but he just was not interested. So fast forward now, he's maybe 8 or 8.5. And one night, finally, the pressure just got to me. And he was on our bed. He had the book. And I said, listen, bud, I know that you don't want to do this. You don't think you need to know how to do this, but it's time for us to learn how to read. So I said, just open the book and just turn to the first page and see what you can do. If you can't do any of it, it's fine. Just try it out and we'll see how it goes. And he opened the book and he read the entire book out loud. He read it out loud. He read it with expression. He stopped in the right places. He didn't stumble on any of the words. And I truly could not believe it. I was a teacher. Not only could I not believe that he had somehow taught himself to read, but that I didn't even know how he did it. I was with him every single day and I didn't know how he did it. And so that experience really just turned everything on its head for me about what I thought about how children learn and what I believed about how children learn. The way that I believed my son learned to read was through his interest in baseball cards, videos, board games, just all of the words that come up in everyday life. And he was able to figure this out for himself. And so what it really made me realize was that everything that I had believed to this point about how children learn was probably not right. The messaging that I was getting was that children needed to be taught in order to learn anything. And that is just not true. From my experience, that is not true. Children are capable of teaching themselves so many things in so many different ways. And a lot of that time, it's often invisible. We don't even know how they're doing it. That is just how they're made. And so, what I started to do at that point was to really look for the research to back up what I had experienced in my home. And what I learned is that what happened to us, it is much more common than you would think. There are so many stories of children teaching themselves to read, and not often on the timeline that they do at school. They do it on their own timeline and in their own way. This book over here became like my little Bible. Everything is in here. So many wonderful stories. It's called How Children Acquire Academic Skills Without Formal Instruction by Peter Gray. Just so many stories in there. So as I started looking for more research, I found just amazing people out there doing this with their families. People have been doing this for years with their families, who have grown children, who have been self-directed the whole time. I found books and podcasts, and I have now decided, just in the past year, my husband and I have created the Modern Homeschoolers account, and I've given myself the monumental task of amplifying those voices, because I feel like the other voices in this space are so loud. And for some people that works, and for a lot of people it doesn't. And I really want people to know that if that is not working for you, if trying to recreate school in your home is not working for you, there are so many other ways to do this. So briefly, I just wanted to go through now these 3 simple things that you can be doing in your own home to really simplify this learning process for yourself and your children, and hopefully bring some more joy back to your homeschool if that's not what you're experiencing right now. So it really begins with the belief that learning for our kids is as natural as breathing. And I know that sounds like a simple thing, but it's like, I encourage you right now to take a deep breath, because I'm going to do that. And truly, our children were born to learn. Our children are curious beings, and we can trust them to guide their learning. There is this messaging out there that our children are empty vessels and we have to dump all the information into them or they're not going to learn. But I have heard another story that really resonated with me, and this is the idea of our children being like seeds. And really, everything that they need to thrive in this world is already inside of them. Our job is to create an environment where they can thrive, to help them to become the best version of themselves. In self-directed education, our job is to create an environment where our children's natural learning instincts can thrive, an environment where our kids have unlimited time and freedom to play and explore, where they have access to the most useful tools of the culture, the internet and screens. As much as we have been taught to fear those, they are one of the most useful tools of our culture. YouTube, something that so many of us are being told to fear. There is so much value on YouTube. There is such an opportunity for our kids to learn from experts when we can teach them to use it as a learning tool. Our kids have learned so much about so many different things that I could not have taught them. But the third thing that you need is a caring community of people, all different age ranges, all different skill sets, knowledge, ideas. Your kids need to be part of a community. And they need to have access to adults who are willing to answer questions. And this is the really important part: provide help when asked. We don't need to be our child's teacher for everything. We don't need to be trying to constantly put information into them that they are not asking for. If they're not asking for it, it's very likely that they are not going to retain it. That information needs to be in context and it needs to be meaningful to them. And when you get those things together, especially when it's coming from someone who cares about them, those are the things that they are going to remember. But the second thing that I am encouraging everyone to embrace is this opportunity to individualize education for our kids. There is no reason right now, especially with the way that AI is changing the job landscape, there is no reason for our children to all be learning the same things. It is really not going to be to their advantage to have all the same knowledge and all the same skills. What we need to be looking at instead is, who are my kids? Who are these little people in front of me? How do they like to learn? What are they curious about? What are they interested in? What lights them up? And the only way that we're going to be able to do that is by really paying attention to them. And then if you're able to combine that with thinking deeply about your own family and what matters to you as a family, that is where you build your curriculum. That is where you start with those two things. Once you're able to do that and create that environment for your kids and really relax into this idea of being a homeschool parent, you start to see yourself more as a guide or a coach or a facilitator. And that way you are taking the pressure off yourself to feel like you need to teach them every single thing that they need to know, because none of us can do that. For my son right now, who's 10, his individualized education, he's learning everything that he does through fishing, cooking, baseball, video games, and entrepreneurial projects. If I had to summarize it. And for my daughter, who's 6, that's coming through dance, gymnastics, songs, art, gardening, and also entrepreneurial ventures. And then finally, the last thing, this has been a real game changer for me, just in the last year, actually, is recognizing one of our biggest jobs as homeschool parents is to role model life for our kids. What we say and what we don't say, how we show up for our kids is what they are going to remember. And they're going to learn more from that, from you, what you do and don't do, and say and don't say. They are going to learn more from all of that, probably than from any, open and go curriculum that you sit down and try to teach them. And I'm not saying that there's not a place for a curriculum as well. I don't want to be misunderstood in that sense. But what I'm suggesting is that you pair the curriculum or the resources with the child. Is this what the child wants? Is this how they learn best? Is this what they're interested in? And just keep in mind that you have their entire childhood to prepare them. And as adults, we are still always learning all the time. So it's not like you get to 18 or graduation and it all finishes. You have limited time, you have limited energy. Please just remember that you can use that in whatever way suits you best. This is not about anyone else. This is about you and your kids. Connect with them, build those relationships, and the rest will follow. For anyone who is interested in that resource list, these are some of the books, but they are also on the resource page of our website, modernhomeschoolers.com. I also have let's see, this is just the cover page, but we have a free guide about 5 things that I wish I learned earlier in my journey. And we also have a little product that we've made on our website that is your Homeschool Vision Blueprint, how to create a clear vision for your homeschool and stop stressing about the future. And that's all for me. Thank you for making me feel relaxed and this opportunity to speak.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. That was so good. And you just gave so much value and so many good resources. So thank you so much. Everyone, make sure that you go follow April. I will make sure to post throughout the week this week of everyone's information so you can make sure you're following them and find them on their website. I actually really loved that you talked about how AI is changing things because I feel like that is a conversation that needs to be had and like individualized. That is something that me and my husband talk about all the time is like we should not be teaching our kids the way that we were taught because it's changing. Like the world is changing so fast that I feel like the public schools are going to be behind because they're not changing and integrating things fast enough sometimes. So that was so good. Thank you so much, April.
Thanks again. Can I just add one thing? As you said that about AI, we also have a free newsletter that we send out every Sunday. And actually, the last couple of weeks, I've been sending out some amazing podcasts that I've found exactly about that, about AI and how the landscape is changing and how college requirements are changing. And just like you said, this is such an opportunity to do something different at home for our kids.
Absolutely. It's so
Thanks
important.
again.
Yeah. Thank you so much.